Yep, now it's there. Hi everyone. My name is Miriam Desarte. I'm here representing Latam Startups Conference. Thank you so much for waiting. We have some tech problems here, but everything is okay right now. We have some guests joining us today here to talk about the Canadian tech sectors. Thank you, Lana in Montreal. She's representing Fundica. And then we have hi. We have Craig Mayer representing Startup Toronto, and Mike Stewart representing Invest Toronto. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So, okay, so let's start with the first questions. Just to make sure you guys are through contact latamstartups.biz. You can ask questions through the email, and also Latam Startups with the hashtag Latam Startups. So before we start everything, you know, if you have questions, yeah. Hey, Ilya. Ilya's here. Ilya is representing Vancouver right now. He is part of the VanHack. There are, okay. Ilya, are you there? Hey, Ilya, do you hear us? Sure, he will be there in a minute. So let's start with the first questions. Why international startups should consider Toronto, Vancouver, or Montreal to extend their businesses? What is the interesting part of you know, these three cities for international startups to come here? Let's start with Toronto. Mike, what do you say about that?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. I think it depends a lot on what the startups are interested in, if it's R&D and development or revenue opportunities. I think a place like Toronto, and I'm sure the other cities, offer a lot of great opportunities. We have, in the case of Toronto, it's the largest city in North America, regional population about in Canada, largest with a regional population about 6 million people. So there's a lot of revenue opportunities here depending on the type of organization you have. And we're very easy to access U.S. market from Toronto as well. I don't want to say everything because a lot of people are going to have similar things, but certainly I think find that Canada is very welcoming. We have a very large population of people who are not even born in Canada. For example, in Toronto, 50% of the population was not even born in Canada. So we're very welcoming to foreigners who come here and want to set up business. We have a very welcoming, supportive ecosystem that I think different people will talk about on the call. So I won't get into that into a lot of detail. And just our cost structure is very reasonable. And in the United States, if you're looking for to go globally, Canada has a good reputation. So I'll leave it at that and let other people jump in with more, I guess, details. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. What about you, Lana? Could you please let us know what is the most attractive part about Montreal in Canada for international startups?
Right, yeah, good question. So I'd have to say that first, we're very diverse, like Mike said. We're a very diverse culture. Quebec, I think, is bilingual. The cost of living here is a bit more affordable than other provinces. However, also, if for entrepreneurs that are doing, they're in the tech space, we have really competitive government incentives, such as the R&D tax credit, which in Quebec is the highest one. We have the e-business tax credit for people developing software products and selling it. We also have, so for people that want to hire experts from abroad, we have the tax holiday for foreign specialists. So the first 5 years, they really benefit from from alleviating from their paying from like their income tax. So their first year they do not pay any, and then gradually over the first 5 years it's decreased. So it'll go down to 75, 50, and so on. So they're very competitive, and I'm sure we find similarities with other provinces, but those are, I think, in the tech industry, that's what's noticeable in Quebec.
Sounds good. That's perfect. And Craig, would you like to add something about Toronto in that matter? Like, what is the most attractive thing about Toronto for international startups?
Well, of course, the Canada's technology sector has outperformed almost every other part of the country's economy over the past couple of years, which is amazing, and it's growing faster and faster. The technology sector in Toronto is the largest in Canada and the third largest in North America, only behind San Francisco and New York. Canada's technology companies are the country's largest investors in R&D, leveraging over $5.7 billion annually, with over $640 million invested in software alone.
Wow.
So, yeah. Of the top 250 Canadian technology companies, 40% of them are based here in Toronto. Well, over 168,000 people are employed at more than 15,000 technology companies, generating approximately annual revenues of $52 billion. So there's lots of good reasons. The tax benefits, the labor force, the universities and schools. Toronto is definitely one of the leading places to be.
If I could just add, I think for all of us, what Canada offers, we have I've worked globally quite a bit, and in the U.S. and in Europe and in Asia. What Canada offers is a very good level of education, right from the grassroots up. We have it's public education, and so people in general are well educated. And at the post-secondary, we have the highest rate of post-secondary education in the world, and not in the world, I can't say that, in the OECD countries. So we have a very educated population, and the government is very supportive of, in Ontario as well as in other provinces, of providing support between private corporations, large corporations, startups, and educational institutions that really supporting innovation in our country.
That's really nice, and it's true. Like the education here is the best, you know, one of the best in the world, and really Canada is known because of that internationally. But also, you know, it has a strong ecosystem in Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, and other cities as well. So thank you so much for that, those comments. We go to the next question, and the next question is about the tech sectors that are developing currently in the cities. We have seen in the last years a really boom in the startup ecosystem in the whole Canada. What are these main sectors that are developing right now in each of these cities? Lana, could you please let us know in Montreal?
Yeah, so in Montreal we see a lot of, prominently, I think, the gaming industry. We're very strong in that. We also have a very large aerospace hub. So the multinational and aerospace are actually situated in Montreal. But I would say that the fashion industry, the fashion tech industry, like Frank and Oak, Tailor to Go, are also from Montreal. And then we've also seen the past few years the Fintech too emerging, and it's getting a strong emphasis here in Montreal. So Fintech, fashion, gaming.
Good. Then what is developing right now in Toronto? Let's start with Craig. What do you think are the booming markets in Toronto for the tech sector?
Toronto is known a lot for its apps lately. We're definitely becoming an app capital of the world, where almost everybody you talk to is developing an app here in Toronto. But subsequent to that, devices, health and medical sectors are growing very fast here in Toronto. It's probably due to our medical universities and the large number of hospitals and educational developments around the medical fields here in Toronto. It's we just keep growing in all areas, but those are the areas where we see the most growth in the last little while. Also should be noted that for some reason social networking in Toronto has grown huge, and we're ranked 6th in the world among Twitter users in Toronto.
Good. Mike, do you have anything to add to those tech sectors that are developing right now in Toronto?
I would just certainly medical technology is booming. The apps, as Craig mentioned, I'd say fintech is an area we're seeing a big uptick in the last 18 months. It's different centers here at Mars or DMZ, or the banks the Canadian banks their headquarters are here in Toronto, and they're all getting a little nervous about what's going on in the fintech space and who's going to eat their lunch. So they're jumping in there with their money and with their personnel, and so that's an area that's really hot here right now. And wearable technology is another where there seems to be something happening all the time. I don't quite understand it myself, but it's a boom area for sure.
Nice. And now that we have Ilya, thank you, Ilya, for coming up. Do you can hear us now? Hey, Ilya, are you there? Well,
I'm here.
Yeah, you are there. Good. Ilya, we were talking before about the the tech sectors and why is each city in Canada important for international startups. So could you please let us know about Vancouver in particular? What is the most important, most attractive part of Vancouver for international startups to go there?
Of course, and I just want to apologize. I had some technical issues and had to get a new computer, so I'm able to participate now. Thanks for your patience with me, guys. Well, I would say the biggest thing with Vancouver is that we do have the fastest growing tech space in Canada right now. We have 2 of the 3 unicorns with Hootsuite and Avigilon. Both billion-dollar companies here in Vancouver, and we just recently had the British Columbia government announce they're going to be investing $100 million into the venture capital pool here in BC. So we're going to get $100 million of new venture capital just from the government coming in this year, which they'll be investing into different funds who will then be investing that money into companies. So there's going to be a lot more venture capital money, a lot more investor money here. Not to mention we have conferences like Traction and Grow, which are bringing in top companies and CEOs and CTOs, CROs, executives from all over the world, Silicon Valley, which is also another thing I think that makes Vancouver very exciting. Silicon Valley is just 2 hours south of here. So if you want to hop on a plane and be in San Francisco for a meeting, spend the day there and come back, you're able to do that at relatively. There's a lot of strong connections between Vancouver and Silicon Valley. Another thing I would say is that we have a strong and growing network of incubators and accelerators, places like Launch Academy, Spring, Wavefront, BCTAA, the BCIC as well, which is generally helping other organizations all around the province and supporting the Vancouver as well. This has really made has helped Vancouver become a strong ecosystem, and yeah, I think that's really the kind of overview of what's going on here.
Good. Could you please also let us know what are the tech sectors that are booming up right now in Vancouver? What would you say that is the most attractive right now?
Yeah, so I think similar to what was said before, I think fintech is becoming hot here in Vancouver. We just had a company called Grow raise $10 million. It's something that people here in BC are starting to look at. Coho is another one that they raised a couple $1 million recently. And I also think Internet of Things. We just had Intel buy recon instruments for I think it was $300 million last year. So Internet of Things is something that wearable tech is an area that is growing and very hot in Vancouver and BC right now. And I think also social media. Well, we have Hootsuite, and we also have other companies that are trying to build off their success. And a company called such as MuseFind, which just graduated from accelerator program in New York, is in the process of raising a seed round, as an example. Or they are connecting Instagram influencers with e-commerce brands, and so they're the great example of a social media company that's doing well here in Vancouver.
Nice. Thank you so much. Now we are going to talk about how your organizations are supporting currently the startups in your locations. So let's start with Invest Toronto. How is Invest Toronto supporting startups here in Toronto?
Okay, just quickly, we work with Invest Toronto. Our focus, we're a corporation, a City of Toronto. Our focus is strictly on helping foreign companies set up business in Toronto. So we, number one, provision of information services in terms of cost, visas, labor, government incentives and support. We make connections to service providers, to the incubators, to shared space, which is very popular for startups here in Toronto, to take a shared office space. So we're sort of we love to talk to companies to find out what their interests are, and then we provide the information they need or the connections that will be helpful for them to get started here.
Good. What about Startup Toronto in this case? Hello, do you guys hear me?
I do.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
We connect startups in Toronto to the right resources. Every startup is different and needs a different type of support depending on where they are in their startup process. We've partnered with the City of Toronto and many of the ecosystem partners to get our members the support they need and to accelerate their growth. Sometimes that happens through our programs that we run, our educational programs, sometimes our networking events, and sometimes we facilitate strong connections between startups who are ready to proceed to Mars and to DMZ and to Incube and to several of the other incubators and accelerators here in Toronto. We work with several of them. Like Toronto has over 50 incubators and accelerators and growing all the time. I know of 2 that are starting in the next couple of weeks that are working with us, and we're going to be help launching them. Also this week, the city is launching their new Startup Here Toronto website, encouraging new businesses and new startups to come to Toronto. That's going to be launched Thursday morning. We work directly with the city, help building this, and we're also working with them to map all the ecosystem partners and services that to help startups, so they have one place to go and look for resources that will help them grow.
That's awesome. We were all looking forward to see the website of Startup Toronto, and it's really good. I saw it the other day, so it's really good. Lana, how is Fundica helping startups? I know that you guys are not just working in Montreal, but all Canada. How you are supporting startups in Canada?
Yeah, effectively. So we're based out of Montreal. However, Fundica has an online tool, so it's a free resource. It's a website that any for-profit startup, SME, large corporation can actually do their search for funding. So whether they're looking for private or public funding, anywhere from the municipal up to the federal level, they can actually put in their company profile within a few seconds, and they'll be matched really with a tailored results of funding programs that match their company profile to hire, expand, start, purchase, export, grants, loans, tax credit, equity, are all found on Fundica. And we've been doing this for a couple of years, and it really works across Canada. And it's a free resource for startups, so we're very happy to be offering that resource to them.
Thank you so much, Lana. And Ilya, how is Vancouver supporting startups? I know you have different initiatives, so you can tell us a little bit, about all of them. But how is your organization supporting startups in Vancouver? Ilya, are you there?
He's gone to get another computer.
Oh, probably. Well, we can go to the next question then about connectors. You guys are connectors in the ecosystem. Could you please let us know if you know any other connectors that international startups should look for, when they are trying to reach the Canadian market? Lana, could you please let us know in Montreal what other connectors you have in the market?
Yeah, for sure. There's Tandem Launch. There's Founder Fuel. Oh, there's so many. There's so many startup. Lagar. There's WeWork. There's Startup Montreal. There's Up Montreal. There's the Founder Institute Montreal. They're all really amazing connectors. And what's nice about the startup ecosystem in Canada is that everyone knows each other. So by simply connecting to one or two in a city and asking for help, then you can actually be connected to the rest. And there's also a lot of municipal groups funded by the government in Montreal. So the local CLDs, now there's CEDEX called, they all offer mentorship, resources locally to startups, young entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, even people that are coming from abroad. So yeah, we have a lot of resources, and I'm only talking about Montreal, but these guys also have amazing groups as well.
Thank you so much for that. Craig, you are a connector with a Startup Toronto. What other connectors do you think international startups should reach when they are trying to get the market here in Canada?
Well, besides Startup Toronto, a good place to start is Mars and Ryerson DMZ here, but we have so many. I'll go through a quick list. InCube, Multiplicity, Brightspark, Founder Fuel, Extreme Ventures, Futurepreneurs, Grow Lab, DevTO, Startup Grind. The list goes on and on. If anybody wants a more detailed list, I'm happy to follow up with that afterwards. But we have a lot of resources, and as it was recently said here, that connecting to a couple, you start connecting to all of them through these resources. So reach out to me. I'm happy to share a list to anyone of places to go and sites to check out. The Toronto Business Development Center and the new Startup Here Toronto site that's coming live that I previously mentioned are all great resources.
Good. I think we have already Ilya. Ilya, are you there? Ilya has some tech problems, but in the meantime, Mike, do you have something to add regarding connectors in the city?
I'd have to say that Craig covered the waterfront on that one.
Okay. So
I really think it's going to be very interesting, the new City of Toronto initiative here on this whole startup. I'm sure working a lot with Craig as well.
That's right. You guys work very close, right? For the last question that we have for you guys here in the panel from our perspective, what is the best advice that you can give to an international startup that is extending business into Canada? What you can advise to them when they are trying to do that?
Okay, I'll start. I think reaching out and joining at least one community in your local area, because startups can't do everything themselves. Having the right connections and talking to the right people, knowing what government programs are available, like Shred, for example, hardly anybody takes advantage of that. But if you hire local talent in Canada, you can get 68 cents back on the dollar if you structure your company right on what you pay these employees. A lot of people don't know about those types of things, so ask. What are the incentives? What are the local programs? What are the grants and money that are available? The City of Toronto is giving out $5,000 to young entrepreneurs under 30 who are starting businesses here in Toronto. There's a lot of small grants that go into bigger grants, as well as tax incentives. So join a community, find the support you need, and whether it's Startup Toronto or Ryerson DMZ or Mars or any of the other ones I mentioned, we all support each other, and reaching out and connecting is the best way to get started.
Good. So, Lana, what would you say about that? What is the best advice you can give to an international startup going to Canada?
I think Craig gave a bunch of really good ones, actually. I would say, yeah, connect to a few. I think the most important thing for a startup that before they actually start, they relocate to Montreal, Toronto, anywhere, just do your research about, government incentives, funding programs, because that's what's going to make a difference in relocating your business, and see what's most advantageous, for you. Some provinces offer. They focus on specific tech sectors, and the government will support that specific tech sector. So I think that would be an ideal start if I were relocating. And also, I'd connect with a startup through any of those groups like us, reach out to us, and then ask to be connected to a startup in the same field as yours, and they will most likely give you amazing feedback other than the ones Craig just gave.
Sounds good. What about you, Mike? What would you say about that? What kind of advice you can give?
The best advice I would give is just get a reasonably cheap plane ticket to Toronto.
Okay.
But no, seriously, I think it's really important to understand what it is, why you're leaving or expanding outside of Latin America. So are you looking for channels to market, or are you looking to develop new products? And I think Toronto offers a lot of opportunities in both of those, especially when you think about the R&D. We've talked about the costs, the support programs from governments. Those are very important, but number one is the talent. And we get a lot of companies coming here from the U.S. just given the fact that we have a strong pool of talent. And here in Toronto we have 4 universities. One of them, U of T, is a juggernaut. It's about 80,000 students, massive engineering school. We are very close to Waterloo, which is about an hour away from here, which has another very good engineering school on the top of Canada, and a great wealth of talent there. So really, I think that's really important, is to be aware of the talent that's available when you get here, and the connections. People like Craig can make those connections for you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Well, I think those were the questions. Now we are going to proceed to ask questions to the public, and we already received some through our email. We have one first question that is very important. We have been discussing this for, I think, 2 years. This is from some of our collaborators in Brazil, and he is actually in Rio. His name is, well, the question is, what is for you a startup? Because this is very important, because we have different definitions of what is a startup. So I would like to know from each of you how you consider a startup. What is a startup here?
Well, can I just start? Because to me, it's in terms of my business, in terms of my role, it's not consequential whether it's a startup or multi-million-dollar company. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Invest Toronto works with anyone. Craig will have a different view, I'm sure.
Yeah, actually, Startup Toronto works with everyone too, but we, whether you're a 1 or 2 person mom and pop shop just doing something locally, or whether you're in a high growth business, we don't differentiate as far as Startup Toronto goes. We help everybody, but obviously there are differences between somebody starting a small business and someone starting a high growth business, but both of them have to go through the same business planning processes, and they just connect slightly different to people. So there is a difference, but we support both.
Good. What about you, Lana? What is the difference for you between a startup and a normal entrepreneur? What is that difference?
I think in a normal entrepreneur, and the difference between a normal entrepreneur and a startup is that they're part of a group or not. They're leading a single initiative by themselves. Just like here, these guys said, we do support startups and non-startups. I think through Fundika and through the Fundika Roadshow, we see a lot of groups of entrepreneurs that have assembled themselves into a team and working on an innovative solution. And whether they're past the idea stage or just really validating their business idea, and they have a prototype. We've seen all different sizes. We're happy to support any of those groups.
Good. So in general terms, all the organization, the good news is all organizations are supporting startups and also entrepreneurs, which is really good. For us in Latin America, it may differ depending of the country. What is a startup? And for some people, it's more like directed to tech startups, and others think entrepreneur is whoever is starting a company really. So it makes a difference depending of the country. But anyway, Ilya, are you here?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me? I don't know. Is it working?
I can hear you. I cannot see you, but I can hear you. That's good enough. I wanted to ask you, that's okay. I wanted to ask you, for you, what is a startup? And before that, we have other questions about Vancouver, but just in general terms, could you please let us know how is your organization supporting startups in Vancouver? Ilya, are you there? I think he's having difficult troubles. Well, in the meantime, we have other questions. We are going just to take 3 questions from those that we have received. Oh, there is Ilya.
I am a mentor for an organization called Spring, which is an early stage incubator program that helps people who are now with an idea. Hello? Yeah, I'm here. Can you?
Ilya, if you can hear me, probably the connection is not really good. We can probably go with those answers later because it's it's good enough right now. I don't know what is going on. But let's continue just with the 3 questions that we have from Latin America.
Is it working?
Those that, now it's working, but I think it's going off and it's going off and on. That's the problem. Just we can answer those questions later. Don't worry. We have Ana Maria in Honduras, and she said that she has a startup developing a solution in edutech. So she's asking which one is the best city in Canada to actually develop her startup.
Well, that's a loaded question. I'm going to say Toronto's the best city, but I'm sure other people are going to say Montreal or Vancouver because they know those cities best. EduTech is very interesting, and I know a few companies doing some interesting things in that area. We have a lot of, as previously mentioned, students and universities and educational facilities here in Toronto, and it's definitely a growth business for us, and we can connect people to a lot of people doing in that industry, people who have mentors in that industry that have done similar things. So there's a lot of connections that can happen here, and the government looks very well on educational type of technology.
I'm going to jump in and say it. I can't favor a city more than the other one. As a lot of my connections are in EdTech space and across Canada. However, again, maybe providing a bit more light on the R&D tax credits. So it is the highest in Canada. You can get up to 73% of your expenditures, so salaries, and you don't need to be actually generating revenue. You just need to be actually, expending, having expenses throughout the year, and then at the end of your fiscal year, you actually can claim it, and then you can get cash back on this claim if you're eligible for it. So that's, I think, a great incentive and a great, it's a great incentive to move to Montreal for EdTech. However, I've seen a lot of amazing EdTech companies across Canada, whether it's Vancouver, Kelowna, and Toronto, even Montreal. So in terms of the government funding, that would be my reason to move to Montreal for EdTech.
Well, I have to say also that there is a lot of collaboration between the cities. So this is for our Latin American startups that are looking at the webinar. This is not kind of like a competition between cities. So there are companies like Highline VC that works Vancouver and Toronto, and there are many initiatives between Montreal and Toronto as well. And even like Fundica, that they go all through Canada, and a startup Canada also that works all Canada. So there is probably it makes sense for some businesses to go to certain city, but I can say that for the 3 cities there are many equal aspects that may be the same or similar in the 3 cities, so it's not like you guys have to compete each other. For the next question, we have Carlos in Mexico. I don't know if you guys can answer this question really. How much it costs to incorporate in Canada, and how I have to actually live there to incorporate?
I can answer that. That it's very, I don't have the exact figure. I think it's under $1,000, and you can incorporate online. You don't have to be a resident here. You don't even have to have directors who are resident in Canada. So it's very easy to do. It's a simple matter.
Good. Any other comments about incorporation in Canada? Any other experience?
It's pretty straightforward, but it depends on what industry you're in and how you're dividing up the company from a shareholder perspective and that kind of stuff. But it can be anywhere from $200 to $1,500 to incorporate, whether you do it all yourself online or whether you engage a lawyer or someone to do that for you. That's the difference in the price range.
Yeah, and I have to say to Carlos that we are actually going to have a webinar about incorporation in March 22nd. So we are actually going to have lawyers, so you can ask those questions to them. Also, we have a third question from Fabian, and this is the last one because we are kind of like short in time. Fabian says that he's developing a solution in Fintech, and he is asking what kind of support are getting Fintech companies in Canada to develop their solutions.
The Mars Fintech cluster is a great one. It's led by Adam Nanji, and they have great companies part of the cluster. They have great partnership, and they're really, I think, the ones, in my opinion, leading the fintech space in Canada so far. But not to say that there's more in the background and that's going to emerge.
Good. Any other question about any other comments about fintech?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I insist.
Canadians are so polite.
Okay, well, I would just say that, reiterate that Toronto is the home of the 5 largest banks in Canada, and they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year on technology. So, and they're looking for new partners, and they're looking for new ways of engaging customers both in Canada and globally. So it's a great opportunity to be here, and certainly Mars is at the forefront there are a lot of other areas in which we could connect you to the fintech world here. We have something called Toronto Financial Service Alliance, which has good connections with the banks because all the CEOs of the banks are on their advisory committee. So if you're interested in that space, fintech, then we could certainly hook you up with Toronto Financial Service Alliance. Will help you fit into that space here in Toronto.
Thank you, Mike. And Craig, do you want to say something about that, fintech?
I think Mike covered it. Toronto is the financial capital of Canada, and a lot of people will tell you otherwise. But we're on February 25th. We're hosting a finance event with BDC, Scotiabank, Highline VC, Intuit, a bunch of other people to talk exactly about. One of the things is fintech, but that just goes to tell you that there's so much going on in the financial sector here. There's always room, and there's always room for support here in Toronto.
Good. Thank you so much. We don't have we have other questions, but I think we can handle those through email. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any comments or any how startups, I will say this, how startups can connect with you guys if they are deciding to come here? How is the best way to connect with you guys?
For me, it's Startup Toronto. StartupToronto.org is our website, and people can reach out to me directly at craig@startuptoronto.org. My advice would be find a local mentor in the area you're going with, and they will. It's worth its weight in gold to find a mentor who's been down that track in your local community that you're looking at. So if you're doing that, reach out. I'll connect you to a few people, and hopefully that'll help.
Good. Any other, Lana, how people can contact you if they have any questions?
Definitely, I'd love to help out. Feel free to reach out to me at Lana, L-A-N-A, @fundica.com.
Oh, good. And Mike?
Well, check out our website. We've got a lot of great information about about Toronto and starting up a business. We're at it's investtoronto.ca, and my email is mstewart, M-S-T-E-W-A-R-T @investtoronto.ca. I'm happy to speak to anybody.
Thank you so much. I have Ilya's email as well, and for the questions that we have here, and I can direct you to you guys when we filter the questions and all that. Thank you so much for supporting us during this webinar and for the great information you gave us about the Canadian tech, cities. And it's important also to mention that the next webinar is about marketing and tools for startups scaling to North America. So we are going to have Hotsuite and Sisamos, and we are going to have Edwin Frondoso from Startup Canada. And we have a bunch of activities between Canada and Latin America that would like to invite everybody to join us during those activities that we are going to have during this year. And any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach us out. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you.